Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at GCNlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@usaprepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked, locked, blissed? Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yes.
It's so good to hear your voice. Alex is engineering the broadcast along with Brad this morning at GCN. I'm Vincent Finelli. And if you'd like to give us a call, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. Telephone listen line 605-477-3249. Dr. Shealy, is there anything that you'd like to comment on before we get underway?
I'm a ready teddy. Whatever.
You are. Okay. Okay. I received a communique from one of our class asking about the meetup. Whatever happened to the meetup? So I thought the best way to describe, and this was, I've been asked over a week ago to respond to this, whatever happened to the USA Prepares meetups? And I thought the best person to discuss this and describe this would be the one who was with us at the meetups in the very beginning, the very first instructor of USA Prepares, Dr. Norman Shealy. And is that okay with you if we discuss what happened to the meetup, Dr. Shealy, to you and me?
Of course, of course.
Okay. All right, so class, here's what happened. Many, many years ago, we had meetups at a restaurant in Springfield, Missouri. And since they asked us to leave, I'm not even going to mention their name, but every week I would mention that we'd have a meetup on Friday night, and somewhere from 4 o'clock, 4:30 in the afternoon, it would start for a couple hours, but it would end up running until midnight, and the restaurant was open 24 hours a day. And the idea was that people could come and hear some people talk about preparedness. I would open up the meetup. I'd be at the microphone in the center of the restaurant, and people would be there. You know, before we got started, I would shake everybody's hand, welcome them to the meetup, and we would talk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seminars during the evening, and literally they went till midnight, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning. And your instructors, you know the names of them. They were there. Dr. Norm Shealy, John Statmiller, John Moore, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, Captain John Reagan, Joyce Riley, Rich Shealy, Larry Nichols. He was of the Clinton kitchen cabinet. He's the guy that put out the fires for Bill Clinton when he just couldn't keep his zipper up. Aaron Dakins, Joey in Michigan, Rich Shealy, Craig Douglas, Marjorie Wildcraft, Joel Johnson, Stephen Ewer. James Wesley Rawls via Skype. And so, and that's just to name a few. Okay? One night, we had 80 instructors, about 80. And all we wanted to do was say, can you just tell us who you are? And the expo was the next day. So just tell us who you are and just take, 1 or 2 minutes at the microphone, introduce yourself. If you're going to be giving a seminar, just tell us what the seminar is going to be about. Very briefly, 1 to 2 minutes each. It took 3 hours. And if you think about it, 2 minutes times 80 plus instructors, 160 minutes, 3 hours. And that was a lot of fun that night. Well, we just...
Hello?
Is that you, Norm?
Yeah. Hello? Ben?
Yeah, I'm here. Yes, I'm here. I just heard it sounded like a phone dialing.
Yeah.
Okay, so we had these meetups, and they went for years and years, 5 years, over 5 years. And one day on the air, Dr. Norm Shealy asked me, he said, hey, I've got my friend, a dear friend who's a spiritual healer. I'd like to bring him to the meetup, and we'll have some volunteers, and we'll do some scientific medical testing to see if spiritual healing actually works. Dr. Shealy, can you describe, since I wasn't there, I said that I wouldn't be there that night, but another instructor would be there. He'd run the meetup, and I'm pretty sure we could arrange that to happen. And so you were there. What happened that night?
Well, interestingly, I was met at the door by the person who eventually, canceled everything. But anyway, he was told, be careful. Don't, be careful what you talk about here. And so, I've never had that happen anywhere before. But I walked in with this wonderful spiritual healer with great experience, knowing that he was indeed a genuine, successful, proven spiritual healer. And I finished and we left. And then I understand everything happened after I left.
Yes, that's right. So what happened, class, was Dr. Shealy had his medical test equipment. He had some volunteers, as I understand it. The spiritual healer was in another room. And Dr. Shealy, you measured with what equipment what was actually happening? Well,
we do an EEG. If the person can, from outside the room, change the EEG of a person lying inside a room, to me that's evidence that they are having at least a physiological effect on that person's brain. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can do that. So you were measuring,
right, you were measuring brain pattern or brain waves, electroencephalogram, right?
Yeah. You got it.
And, yeah. And so this was a scientific medical study right there live in front of live volunteers. These were not people who were pre-selected. So Dr. Shealy entered the room, and this was at a restaurant. And Dr. Shealy does not like driving at night. I'll just tell you the way it is. So after he and his associate made their presentation, they left. And after they left, and I was told this by multiple people who were there, that the meetup group was asked by the guy who was leading the meetup in my absence about this Dr. Shealy. And I'm paraphrasing. What do you think? Do you think we should permanently ban him from ever coming back to the meetup? And there's a lot of reasons why I want you to hear this, class. Because you really need to pay attention to what human dynamics are really like. Well, the meetup group, we had a restaurant full of people, and all but 3 voted to ban Dr. Shealy. 3 voted to keep him. Dr. Howard Shane was there. He's a dentist, and he's a senior USA Prepares instructor. He's been at our farm many, many, many times, as has Dr. Norm Shealy. Dr. Shealy knows Dr. Howard Shane. Dr. Howard Shane couldn't believe it. He told me on the phone after it happened, he couldn't believe that they voted to ban Norm Shealy. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about what Norm did. Over the years, Norm would come in about every quarter, 4 times a year, and he would have free clinics. He would test people's blood pressure. He would listen to their aches and pains and tell them what they should do about it. He would provide medical consultation absolutely free at the meetups, 4 times a year for 5 years. The meetups lasted 5 years. And even more often. And these are the same people who would call his office and go to his free medical evaluations that he would host. He had medical trials. Dr. Shealy paid for all of it. And these are the same people who received all of these free services and products. And all but 3 voted to ban Norm Shealy. And I was told this, and I didn't know how to tell Norm Shealy. So I told him on the air one day, years ago. And Norm was laughing when I mentioned that he was banned. And I said something like, well, don't get all excited because they banned me too. after they voted to ban Dr. Shealy, they said, well, what about the Finelli guy? How many want to ban him? So they banned me, too. So they banned two of the most helpful people in their lives regarding this meetup. They banned us both. And, of course, I am thankful. I really am, because it showed me what people are like. I was absolutely shocked, because for 5 years, some of the same people came every week for 5 years. They came from 3 or 4 states away, literally. Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas. We had, the farthest was England. But anyway, that's what the meetups were like. And there were so many people at some of these meetups. We had a minimum of 50 and a maximum of over 300. And it was really, really neat. Anyone who wanted to speak about something cogently, concisely, articulately, was able to come to the microphone, and before the meetup would start, and when I was shaking hands, people would say to me, hey, I'd like to mention this, that, the other thing. And I'd say, sure. But these are the same people who would still walk into the meetup with their cell phones, even after I asked them over and over and over, week after week after week. Please, don't bring your cell phones. And I even had a meetup saying, all right, so tell me, let's talk about these cell phones. I don't want to be recorded. I don't want to be on video. And I will not come to the meetups. If you want to bring the cell phones, fine. I just won't come. They couldn't remember to not bring their cell phones. They're so addicted to them. And there's a reason why I'm mentioning that, too.
And
so, Dr. Shealy, I thought the meetups were... I'm sorry?
Well, I also want to mention that the interesting thing about it is there was what I call a flaming fundamentalist who brought all this to the end. And, flaming fundamentalists have no fun in their life whatsoever. And they don't want anybody else to have fun either. But it's interesting that there were enough flaming fundamentalist supporters in that group to vote us out. Oh, well, be perfect like us, but they could try.
Well,
and I hope nobody would take it
I'm really glad, Dr. Shealy, I'm really glad that they did. And I really mean this, because for me, it was 8 hours a week of my life that I devoted to the meetup. The hours that I was there, 2 hours going on travel time, 1 hour there, 1 hour coming back, plus the preparation. And so it was 8 hours a week, and they freed that up. And I realized that just a very, very few of the people who were diehard preparedness-minded types, just a few of them actually did anything. There are plenty of keyboard warriors, plenty who could talk about the news, politics, what's happening, current events. I mean, they were really good at that, but actually getting a shovel out and digging a garden, not so good. And I'm not talking about all of them, I'm just talking about most of them. We'll talk a little bit more about this with Dr. Shealy when we come back, because there's a very valuable lesson to be learned from this discussion. Dr. Norm Shealy and I will be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, normshealy.com, Norm, SHEALY.com. And if you'd like to contact his office in Springfield, Missouri, Dr. Shealy, what's that number to contact your office?
417-351-5221.
417-351-5221. That's Central Time in Missouri. So to continue this story, class, the people who you think you know, you probably don't know them as well as you think. Okay? And some are very easily led. And that's what we're talking about here. So for 5 years, the meetup group has seen me. They've been to our house and farm multiple times. They've seen the way we behave. They've seen the way we act. They know that we've never charged a fee for the meetup. They know that there's no dues, no fees, nothing. And I was given a free meal at the meetup every night by one of the guys who was a waiter. what happened was his restaurant would give him a free meal for working that day. He gave it to me, and then I gave it to one person in the meetup group. I would have a little lottery, a 50-50 type ticket where you have you pass out tickets, and there's two of them with the same number on them, and they would get one, and the rest would go into a little bowl, and the waiter or waitress would pick one out at random, and that person got a free meal. So they even got free food. Well, they were never charged for anything. And even though they recommended at one meetup that I start charging for this, I never wanted to and never did. So what I'm saying is you don't necessarily know the people who you think you know. And proof of that is, about every 3 months or so, I would say to the meetup group, let's say one of us were in trouble and needed help. Somebody here. Somebody who you've seen over and over again. Would you help that person? How many would lend assistance? All the hands went up. Everybody. Nobody declined to help somebody in the meetup group, meaning help ourselves, right? Well, one day, I was talking to one of the guys that was there, and he had been there many times, and he had been on behind the microphone, and he was a truck driver. Neat, clean, well-dressed, manicured, and a nice guy, middle-aged guy, just like most of the people at the meetup. And I said to him, everybody knew him from seeing him over and over and seeing him behind the microphone. One day I asked him if he could tell us what it's like being a big rig truck driver. What do you see? What's happening out there? And so by him associating with the group and by being on stage, if you will, everybody knew him. And one day I said to him, so where do you live? And he pointed out the window. He said, out there, that way. And I said, and I mentioned that direction. And he said, I said, that way? And he said, in the parking lot. And I said, in the parking lot. He said, in my van. He lives in his van. And I said, I didn't say, whoa, are you kidding me? I said, is that what you want to do? He said, I'm okay with that, but I would, and I'm paraphrasing, because this was years ago, but I'd really like to have a base of operations. I'd really like to pull into the same spot every night, rather than go from Walmart parking lot to Walmart parking lot to Walmart parking lot. And I said, okay, what would you like to do? And he said, well, I'd really like to, someone had a place, I'd like to, pull into their place, and I don't want to use their electricity, I don't want to use their water, but, I would like to have one spot and one routine spot, and I'd like to help out. So if they have a farm, I would like to, work on the farm and help them out in return for that parking spot. I said, okay. So I mentioned this to the meetup group. I said that there's someone, one of us, who could use a little help, and here's what this person would like to do. I didn't say whether it's he or she. I said, so if you feel that you can help this person or you'd like to, let me know. When we come back, I'll tell you how many people signed up to help him. You won't believe it. Dr. Shealy and I will be right back after these few short bottom-of-the-hour commercial announcements. So just to finish up very quickly, Gene, I know you're on hold, and we've got someone else on hold. How many people offered to help this man? 0. No one at the meetup, no one offered to let this man park his van. And it wasn't like he was a homeless guy with a piece of junk. He had a nice van, had a little trailer with it. No one offered to help him by letting him park his van on their property. Now, he could have parked here, but he didn't want to be 60 miles outside of Springfield. He wanted to be near Springfield. So our place wouldn't work for him. But all I'm saying is there are plenty of takers, but very, very few people will actually offer to help and follow through with that help. Gene in Kentucky, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Hello, y'all. I saw such a similar ad on Craigslist, in the Louisville Craigslist. Someone was looking for a, place to park the van. They wouldn't go bother anybody, And they had a job in Louisville, but they wanted someplace within 30 miles, and that was further than 30 miles. But anyway, what I called about today was my thyroid test results. The doctor wants to increase my armor, increase the dosage, and I'm not too hopped about that because I hate taking any pills anyway. But my results went from back in March. They were TSH was 4. I should have circled it. Sorry, 4.2, and this time supposedly they were 4.72. And she wants to increase it. I forgot to how much. I haven't picked up.
And how many milligrams are you on now?
60.
How much do you weigh?
108.
Well, that is should be an average dose for your weight. On the other hand, my mother weighed 102 pounds, and it took 180 milligrams to keep her thyroid normal. So as long as your temperature is below 98.6 consistently after you've been up 3 hours, it's better to increase the dose because your TSH is high.
Yeah, but I didn't eat that morning. Was that anything to do with it?
I'm sorry?
I didn't eat anything before I went for the test that morning. Would that have anything to do with it?
No, that doesn't make any difference. It's not related to food.
But I know my temperature is always below normal.
Yeah, well, that means you're hypothyroid.
Yeah, I have been since I was 21 years old, and it's been about 50 years.
Yeah. I would agree with your physician and up the dose to 120 milligrams.
Yeah, well, I know what she wanted to do. She wanted to do it once before, but I didn't realize when I picked it up prescription, I just put it in my drawer because I didn't quite run out yet. And then she had upped it then, but then I went back for a test 30 days later because I didn't really want to increase the dosage, and it was back to normal. So could it have a fluctuation like that?
Oh, yeah.
Really? But you think I really ought to increase it? Even though I don't like taking pills?
Well, you have a choice. You either take pills for this or you remain hypothyroid. Those are your choices.
Well, I really don't want to be either one, but I guess the fluoride caused it years ago in the water. It probably still is because the fluoride's in everything you buy, all the produce you buy and all that, because people, even though they grow organic, they still use so-called city water,
Yeah, but once the thyroid is damaged, it's hard to get it back to normal.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it got damaged from what I eat or didn't eat, I had a thyroid uptake, I think, years ago, and I can't remember. I was young and didn't realize what they were doing, so I don't know if they distorted it or if they just read the readings. I don't know. That was too many years ago, to remember exactly what they did. I was young mother.
Dr. Shealy, what is...
Huh?
My question is, what is the risk of remaining hypothyroid?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually decreased energy, decreased metabolism, often more fatigue.
Yeah.
Decreased energy, decreased metabolism. Anything else, Dr. Shealy?
Fatigue.
Yeah.
I'm still losing weight because I'm still not getting enough sleep, so that don't help.
Of course, if you don't get 7 hours sleep, you're functioning like a slightly drunk person.
I know. I mean, I feel halfway okay. But it's just this weather, and then I have to water my plants out there, and it takes 2 to 4 hours, and I hate all that. So I'm up late.
Jean,
and I get up with my little chicken girls in the morning, and I'm not used to doing that. So if I could just go back to sleep, I'd probably be better. But you really think it wouldn't hurt to increase it? It won't have any side effects?
I don't think so. I think it would be fine.
Okay, now if I did increase it and it was too much, I didn't really need it, what would happen? Would my heart beat too fast and all that?
Yeah, you'd probably feel nervous or, somewhat excited.
Yeah, I don't really want to be that way. I'm too much that way already. Okay, so I guess I'll go ahead and get the new prescription and see how it works.
Good.
Jean, before you go, you've called in several times.
Yeah.
And we're delighted that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Dr. Shealy advising you to get more sleep many times.
I would love to. Believe me, I would love to, but I got my chickens back, and I shouldn't have got them back because I have to get up with them, and then I won't go back to bed. I keep saying I am, if I don't, I get outside and do things,
Gene, I'm taking you out to the woodshed right now.
I know.
Okay?
That's what my husband says. He says it's going to kill me, but I love him. You know what I mean? And I don't want to put him down. The little three got left, and the lady don't want him back.
What I tell you is that you have one primary responsibility.
Myself.
Is to take care of yourself so that you can help others.
I know. But I love my little chicken girl.
Then stop it. Then stop those stupid excuses. Take care of yourself first.
I know. I just got a
Gene,
mind too.
Gene, so in a few weeks when you call back, what Dr. Shealy and I are looking forward to hearing is that you found a way to get more sleep, you're getting more sleep, and you feel better. That's what we'd like to hear.
Oh, me too.
Would you, okay, would you make that priority number one?
I'll try, but I just wish I'd go back in time and not took my little chickens back that I would get more sleep.
Okay. Give us a call in a few weeks and let us know how well you're progressing.
Okay, then. Thank y'all so much. And y'all take care. Appreciate y'all. Thank you. And keep up the good work.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Gene. Well, that's the first time we've ever taken someone to the woodshed. I think we're going to do it more often. Mark in Pennsylvania, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Mr. Finale, Dr. Shealy, just a couple of quick questions for you, please. Is there a possibility of getting too much vitamin D? I do take your recommendations of 50 milligrams, and I also take your youth formula and your daily, but I also take fermented cod liver oil. And is it a possibility of getting too much vitamin D?
Well,
That's my
yes.
first question.
The biggest problem actually with cod liver oil is vitamin A. If we can overdo, especially fish liver oil, A, and that can cause brain troubles. But it's rare that you would overdose it with vitamin D. I mean, up to 10,000 units a day in almost everybody is acceptable.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I had is I just got your TENS unit, the TENS 3000, and I had an old 7,000 unit. And I know when I got the email from you about it, from your company about it, it was talking about placement of the pads on different areas of the body. I wonder, did you have a book or instruction sheet, or is it the same with the oils, or for various ailments? Is there anything that can help?
Well, in general, you put the pads above and or below the area of pain. If that does not work, then you try some of those reflux points that we mentioned, the bladder 60 and kidney 1 acupuncture points. That's the single best alternative way to try pain anywhere in the body if it doesn't work around the pain.
Somewhere? Are those in a book somewhere, sir, or illustrated somewhere? Or?
Well, if you just look up acupuncture point, you'll get pictures of it.
Okay, acupuncture points. All right, gentlemen. Well, that's all I had today. Thank you so much, and you're doing a great job, and appreciate all your hard work.
Mark, may I ask you how you found us?
Well, I've been listening to you for years. Normally, I'm driving when I do, and it's hard to call in because I'm between states to states, but I've been listening to you for years, 3 or 4 years, I guess.
Do you listen on the
2 or 3
internet?
times in the past.
On the internet or on the phone?
I download the podcast normally because I travel a lot, and so I listen. That's how I listen most of the time. So you're already off the air by the time I'm listening.
Mm-hmm. And where do you download the podcast from? Republic Broadcasting, Genesis Communications Network, Ron Gibson?
I download them from Podcast Addict. Podcast Addict is just a downloading mechanism, and you're on there, and I just download them from there every day or every week, and then I listen to them on my drives.
Well, thank you for telling me. I didn't even know about Podcast Addict. I don't know how we got on there.
Well, there's several of them. It's just a search engine for podcasts. You can get any podcast that you want, basically. And that's how I found, the ones that I listen to. And I just download them there, and then they just stream while I'm driving. Just put it through my radio and just listen. So, but I appreciate all your help, and I learned a lot. And I just have one quick question, if I could, Mr. Finelli. Sure. Does Miles still ever come on?
Miles does. Miles calls here every once in a while. He is really, really tied up. Is there something that you'd like, Miles? I believe Miles listens many days. So Is there something you'd like him to talk about?
Well, anything, but I think when you two interact, especially about engines and automotive and just general preparedness, he's both of you very wise men and just learned a lot. And I just haven't heard him the days that he's been on, but it's just been a lot of good information that we've implemented with our kids and our family. And, I just wanted to know if he was still around.
Well, I'll tell you what. He talks with one of our instructors quite often, more than he communicates with me. And I'll make that known that you'd like to have him come back on. He is a wealth of information. There's hardly anything he is not conversant in. He speaks 7 languages. And he's a brilliant, brilliant man, a wonderful, wonderful person. So I'll make sure that's not. What have you implemented that you've learned with your family?
Well, a lot of stuff that you talked about in maintenance and engines. And
Did I just get disconnected? No. Okay.
Hello?
Yeah. Yeah. Things like that.
Some of it's it's not that I don't know it. It's just a good reminder because I'm pretty busy and I'm getting near retirement, and I just will probably do more when I retire. But it's been excellent programming.
Well, thank you.
Can I ask another quick question?
Sure.
Can I ask another quick question, Dr. Shealy?
Yeah.
Dr. Shealy, I was looking for something for energy, and I read some stuff, and it said D-ribose and carnitine, and I saw both of them on your website. Are those safe to take in any amounts and that kind of stuff for energy?
Well, nothing is safe in any amount.
Well,
in general,
I mean
one
in
or
the
two
recommended
capsules.
amount.
Well, 1 or 2 capsules of each of those is safe.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Oh,
gentlemen.
you're
Have a great day.
Mark,
Bye-bye.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, Dr. Norm Shealy and I will be right back, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about this meetup thing and how it relates to children today. We'll be right back. Now, so let's say you're in a serious situation. Let's say the grid goes down, and now life is tough. Well, so you get these people who you think you know, and they're all in your home or your farm or your house, wherever you happen to be. And you find out that, well, some of them really like to sleep late. And the young people, the millennials, don't know how to do anything. And you say, all right, let's service the equipment. Okay, you change the oil. I don't know how to change the oil. Okay, why don't you mow the hay? I don't know how to mow the hay. Why don't you go and jump the battery on the tractor because the battery's dead. I don't know how to do that. I mean, you're going to find all kinds of things like that. Okay, I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Well, what are these people like? Well, here's an example. There's a story on the Daily Mail. This Pennsylvania couple had about $1,000 in their bank account. And the reason I'm mentioning this is what I'm seeing appear more and more are people who are 35 years old or so, who are children. They behave like children. What happened? I don't know what happened. But here's an example. So here's a guy, Robert Williams, he's 36, and his wife, Tiffany, is 35. They live in Pennsylvania. Well, they had about $1,000 in their bank account. And all of a sudden, the bank makes a mistake and puts $120,000 more in their account. So what do? They do what any 35-year-old child would do. They spent it. They bought some four-wheelers. They bought a new vehicle. And if you look at pictures of them, there they are with their tongues sticking out. I mean, these are 35 and 36-year-old children. Now, do you think that's normal? Now, what would you do if they came to your house during a serious situation? Now, I'm not exaggerating on this. BB&T, the bank, accidentally put $120,000 in their account. And these two morons spent it. And they were thinking, this is good. No one's going to catch this. How could they possibly? Now they're in jail. $25,000 bail. They've got to repay it. They've spent the money. The bank's scratching their heads, wondering how this happened. The money's gone. And how are they going to get back from these two morons? Can you imagine that? So, Dr. Shealy, what I'm seeing is more and more people around 35 years old who are behaving like children. I'm talking about they melt down. Their cat gets sick and they melt down. They don't know what to do. Their car won't start and they melt down. The internet goes down, they melt down. They have a problem with their cell phone and they melt down. And I'm not exaggerating. They get 3 bills in the mail or 3 bills on the internet and they don't know how to manage it and pay it because the internet went down. Literally, they melt down. Are you hearing of stories like that, or is it just my
I'm not.
world?
I'm happy to say that I have 5 grandchildren, all of them are millennials. Not one of them is like that. On the other hand, I know what you're saying, and I certainly see it more or less in comments that people make. To me, these people have an IQ below 90. I mean, anybody with an IQ of 90 should be able to understand how to handle that kind of situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I was at your farm and I had a chance to meet one of your grandsons. I was so impressed with that young man. I really was. He could communicate. He was polite. He was cogent. He was succinct. He had a plan. He knew where he was going. He knew how to get there. Completely different from so many others whom I've met. And I have a feeling it has a lot to do with family. I have a feeling it has a lot to do with family interaction. And I'm wondering exactly what happened. I was thinking while I was sleeping last night, what happened in 1985? What happened? Because that's when I think this started. I think that was the beginning of this me first. I'm important. Nobody matters but my happiness, or nothing matters but my happiness. That's what I'm seeing. And during the break, I'm going to do a quick search, and I'm going to find out what happened in 1985. And I know one thing that happened. We started using high-powered cell phones. That was the beginning of the $3 a minute cell phone era. And since then, cell phones became more and more and more popular. But maybe that was the beginning of it. Let's talk more about this when we come back with Dr. Norm Shealy. If you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call. 866-582-9933. Dr. Shealy, medical doctor, PhD times 3. Class Dr. Norman Shealy's with us. NormShealy.com, NormShealy.com. And if you go to his website, that's the same place you can buy the vitamins that I do. I really like Dr. Shealy's vitamins. His youth formula, absolutely fabulous. And I have a quick announcement. Friday, hour number 1, I'm going to open the lines. I'm going to do something that I don't think has ever been done on the radio. And I'm going to invite our dissenters, our detractors, to give us a call and criticize what they don't like, because they certainly do it on the internet behind the keyboard. And I'm going to invite them to come on the air and do it the way we do it. And I'm going to give them all the rights and privileges that our instructors have while they're on the air. And they can follow the same rules that the instructors have. So if they want to call and complain, that'd be Friday, hour number 2. It'll probably be just me. And you can say whatever you'd like. And here are the rules, the same rules that all of our instructors abide by. Number 1, you have to be polite. Number 2, you have to use your real name. Number 3, you're going to have to give us your contact information. You know how we can get in touch with you. And no profanity. It's as simple as that. So if you'd like to call, certainly do that. Tell our engineer who you are. And why don't you give your phone number so I can use it. Dr. Shealy just gave out his phone number. I used to give out mine until the detractors started harassing our instructors, so I don't do that anymore. So just do it the way we did it. Don't hide behind that keyboard and say whatever you like, but just be polite. And so open invitation to all of our dissenters and detractors, and trolls on the internet. You're invited to come on the radio with me. Now, bear in mind, if you don't come on, we're going to mention that you didn't have the courage to come on. And if you do come on, you get to say whatever you want.
Vince, you're terrific.
Well, I really mean it. I'd like to hear from these guys. I mean, they're like the one sentence wonder or the one phrase wonder. They like hit and run. And I'm challenging them to say more than just the hit and run. I'm challenging them to be be more than the peeping Tom. Actually, say who they are. You know, the way we do, because I don't think they have a courage. So I'm calling them out, and let's see what happens. So, Dr. Shealy, I did a little bit of any comments on that, Dr. Shealy, before we continue?
Think it's great.
To 1985.
You know, as a Sagittarian, you know, I'm the bluntest person that I know, but it must be Sagittarian time for you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm wondering, last night I was thinking while I was sleeping, what the heck happened 35 years ago to cause this? To literally cause mid 30-year-olds to not be able to cope, to melt down, to lose it. What happened? So here are the inventions that I found from the 1980s. Okay. So Prozac. That's one. The Apple Macintosh. That's another one. CD-ROMs. That's another one. The disposable camera. Now, you could buy a Fuji disposable camera. Think about how stupid that is, right? You buy a camera with a lens and a shutter and all the mechanism, and you take your 20 pictures and you have it developed and you throw away the camera. It's beyond reasonable, if you ask me, but he made them. And then the mobile phone. That was in 1983. The disposable contact lens. The hepatitis B vaccine. That was 1986. The artificial heart. We mentioned Prozac. DNA fingerprinting. The camcorder. Now, some of the other important inventions of the 1980s, MS-DOS. That'd be Microsoft DOS, disk operating system. Doppler radar. Apple came out with a more powerful computer. They called it the Apple Lisa, L-I-S-A. Then RU-486, the abortion pill. Now think about the nomenclature of that abortion pill, RU-486. The letter U, and then the number 486. Now think about that. So R could be A-R-E, R. U could be replaced with the word Y-O-U, R-U. 4 could be replaced with the word F-O-R, RU4, meaning are you pro, what, 86. 86 is the military term for throw it away, dispose of it, put it in the trash. Nomenclature for the abortion pill, RU486. Any comments on that, Dr. Shealy?
I love the way you think. But yes, I find it very interesting that both Microsoft and Apple are prominent in that. So the whole essentially modern computer use began to replace common sense in many respects, and the typewriter and the handwritten notes. And then, of course, the whole cell phone, which from the beginning I thought was only for emergencies.
Yeah, I remember getting a call in 1985 from a guy. I was at the bank, and he called from down the street saying that he was coming up to see me in my office. So, he used his $3 a minute cell phone in his car. He had a car phone, with an antenna attached to his car. So that was relatively new. Wow, he could call from his car. Wow, it's amazing. And that was in the mid-1980s. Then, so when you talk about the Apple computer, it had a different operating system. You could point and click with the mouse. Before that, it was MS-DOS, and you'd use keystrokes. letters and numbers and special characters, and you'd have to type them in to make the computer do something. Well, Apple developed the point-and-click Mac operating system, and it's alleged that Bill Gates and Microsoft stole it, and that became Windows. So then Windows came out in 1985, Synthetic Skin came out, then the first 3D video game in 1987. Human Growth Hormone, 1982. High Definition Television, late 80s, 1989. Scanning Tunneling Microscope, 81. Indiglo Nightlight, that was in 1988. And the Space Shuttle, 1981. So those are some of the highlights of what happened in the 1980s. That set the stage for what happened in the 90s as these children of 1985 or so grew up. So the technology boom started right there. That's when it really exploded. And Apple and the cell phones were right there. The video games. How many children were exposed to this alternate, I don't know, maybe you could call it artificial reality, synthetic reality, video games, playing these, kill them, blow them up, shoot them, kill too many, let's reset, or didn't kill enough, let's hit the reset and kill some more. The military got involved with using these video games to desensitize the soldiers about murder and mayhem and blood and gore and guts. So I think that there's something there that started this mess. And then these 35-year-old types raised children. And they're really a mess. Not all of them, but way too many. Way too many. And Dr. Shealy, the last couple of days I've been doing two major things. One was I've been baling hay, going round and round in circles with the tractor. I baled, I think, about 80,000 pounds of hay over the weekend. And when I wasn't doing that, I was on a scaffold spackling. And I was thinking, how many young people do I know who can finish sheetrock, meaning tape and spackle the joints and finish them so that ready for paint? How many? The only ones I know are, for sure that can do that are our children. I don't know anyone else. I've never met anyone else that, as a young person that could do that. And I was thinking about that. So I think our public school system has failed us. How come young people don't know how to do that? Why? So I think we've forgotten to teach them skills. What actually are we teaching them? I think the parents ought to go to the school system and find out exactly what in the heck your children are learning, besides how to kick a ball and hit a ball and chase the guy with the ball. How are they learning life skills? What are they learning about life skills? And I'll bet you it's precious little. Dr. Shealy, do you think that we've hit on what the genesis of this mess that we're in is, meaning the beginning of the cell phone, the beginning of the point-and-click computers? Easy to
there's
do.
One of the possibility, and it is all related to some extent, and that is the increase in Wi-Fi signals in the air. Many of these things are associated with this background of constant electromagnetic signals from satellites, and that really didn't exist until then. And so somehow, we've got this remarkable increase in artificial electromagnetic energy, and now we're about to go from 1G to 5G. And so it may be related to that.
And with 5G, we're talking about millimeter wavelengths, very, very short wavelengths, very, very high frequency, DNA disruptors. And Elon Musk, who I think is one of the most dangerous people on the planet, wants to put 20,000 satellites in space continuously, beaming down, transmitting down these 5G wavelengths all over the planet, everywhere, no escape. And my understanding is these wavelengths are so short, they get around, they'll go through concrete, they'll go through glass, they'll go through walls, they'll go through steel. There's no escape. No escape. And these guys want to do this. And they are allowed to walk around freely. They are threatening the entire planet, these people who are doing this. And I don't understand how they can, I don't know, have freedom. I don't understand that.
Well, they may be different from, but they're as dangerous as nuclear energy at a subtle level.
Which is next on our list, Dr. Shealy. Japan. Dr. Shealy and I are going to tell you about Japan. What you're going to hear about what Japan is thinking about is beyond crazy. And we're going to tell you. Class, Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, and we're going to talk about radioactivity, nuclear reactors in Japan. But David in Illinois, I'm going to take your call first. Welcome. David, are you there? Hey, David. Well, I have a feeling. Okay. David, are you there? All right. I'm going to put you on hold, David. I have a feeling you can hear me, but we cannot hear you. So I'm going to put you on hold, and I'm going to come back to you, okay? Just stand by. Okay. Dr. Shealy, Fukushima. And in 2011, there was an earthquake off the coast of Japan. For those who haven't found out about this. And this 6.6 magnitude earthquake shook the region in 2011. And there was this resulting tsunami. It swamped the nuclear reactors, and a bunch of them melted down. And these are right on the coast. General Electric style reactors. I can't believe anybody would say, hey, there's a good place to put these reactors right on the coastline of Fukushima, Japan. And the radioactivity has been leaking, and some of it's been captured and it's put in storage tanks. Dr. Shealy, you want to tell the rest of the story?
Well, of course, the earthquake somehow took over, essentially, the reactors at their nuclear energy facility, and it has been leaking radioactive material into the ocean ever since then, and they supposedly have been trying to contain it, but now the containers they've run out of containers, and they are either asking other countries to take off the waste product or just let it into the ocean. Now, I've been saying since the 1940s or 50s at least, that nuclear energy is the most stupid insanity that was ever created because we have no way of containing it. And now we're getting close to serious problems.
So what we're talking about, class, is the government of Japan is telling the world that they're running out of storage and will run out by 2022. Roughly 2 years from now. And they may release this radioactive waste into the ocean. All the world's oceans are interconnected. And the oceans are applying hydraulic pressure against land. So we have ocean water pressing in toward the land, and we have the water in our aquifers pressing outward. Now, let's just fast forward to Florida. In Florida, there are plenty of golf courses. And what the Floridians and the developers have done is they've pumped water out of the underground aquifers that has taken millions of years to get there. And they've pumped a lot of it out, and that left a void. And the seawater came rushing in. So now we have fresh water in Florida that's been contaminated by seawater. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, there was a tsunami, and one of the faculty there measured the static water level in one of the wells, And when the tsunami hit the East Coast, that water rose 100 feet in the well, which tells you absolutely certainly that the ocean and the freshwater supply are connected. So if Japan is going to dump radioactivity into the water, into the ocean, it will end up in all the world's oceans, and it will be pressing inward to the freshwater supply. And some people say, well, who is it that we think we are to tell Japan what to do? They're a sovereign nation. They can do whatever they want. Really? We can allow Japan to threaten the planet with ecocide? Extermination? Dr. Shealy, what would happen medically, in your opinion, if Japan dumped the nuclear waste into the ocean? What do you think would be a chain of events?
Well, ultimately, it will cause widespread death.
In just a minute, I want to finish up this part about radioactive birth defects. Dr. Shealy, I'd like our class to just go to any search engine and type in radioactive birth defects, and you'll see what we're talking about. Dr. Shealy, you said that this can cause death, right, across the planet?
Well, in the long run, it's inevitable. I mean, remember, in California, there are 5 nuclear reactors built on or near the San Andreas Fault, which have a 50% chance of a serious earthquake every 30 years. And so, again, I think nuclear energy is the most serious, stupid, ignorant, dangerous, diabolic thing ever produced. Sooner or later, it's going to destroy us.
No question. No question. I have at the farm an article. We used to get the Sunday paper, and there was a magazine called Parade, and it was across the nation. So if you got the big newspaper in the city, you get this Parade magazine. And in this Parade magazine was a picture of a baby horse with 8 legs. And this was as a result of radioactive exposure. And I'm looking at pictures right now of birth defects as a result of, radiation toxicity. There's a young boy who has 1 arm, and his legs don't go forward, they go out to the sides. I know that in Rogersville, Missouri, there was a calf born with 5 legs. One of them came out of it 4 normal type legs, 1 leg coming out of his head. If you look, you'll see calves born with 2 heads as a result of the Chernobyl mutation. There are babies who were born with 2 heads, 2 chests, 2 legs, and 2 arms. So 1 half of a baby coming out of the stomach of the other baby. These are horrific birth defects. Co-joined twins, joined at the chest. 2 heads, 1 larger than the other. 4 arms, 4 legs, 1 body. These are beyond horrific. So if you like the idea of, having this in your family, and just be pro-nuclear power. The dumbest thing we've ever done, and Dr. Shealy and I are absolutely positively on the same page with this, as we are on most things, if not everything. Imagine building a car and operating it inside a building and knowing that the exhaust from that car, there is no way that you can live with it, no way at all. But yet you're going to use the car inside that building. You know it's going to kill you. There's no way to dispose of the exhaust. It's going to stay inside the building, and yet you continue doing that. We've got calls stacked up. David in Illinois, thank you for your patience. David? David, I cannot hear you I don't know what's going on. I don't know if your potentiometer's turned up at GCN or what. I'll tell you what. I'm going to put you back on hold, and I'm going to ask our engineer to see if he can fix that. Hold on, and we'll be right back with you. Let's try Deborah in Kentucky. Deborah?
Good morning, Vincent and Dr. Shealy.
Good morning.
Well, howdy. What's up?
Well, my primary focus for one question this morning is what would be your approach on a holistic view of taking care of Lyme disease?
Okay. At the top of my list, if you get it in the acute stage, I do believe in using antibiotics. If you don't get it within the first month or 6 weeks of developing it, antibiotics are never going to cure it. At that point, or 1 year or however many years later, the only thing that I've found makes a big difference is 20 IVs of vitamin C in a Myers cocktail. Now that, depending on your weight, may range from 75 to 100 grams of vitamin C with all the other components of a Myers cocktail. That can make a huge difference in Lyme disease.
How about if we're not sure the time frame? I don't think it would be years, but where would you come from? Trying holistic and antibiotic, would that work?
Well, in the early days, of course. And I'm not opposed to trying antibiotics again if you like. But my experience is I've seen so many people who, a year later they finally made the diagnosis. And I don't think it ever cures it when you use antibiotics that late. But the IV vitamin C is the treatment of choice.
But it's worth a shot to I would prefer holistic approach, of course, but if we're just kind of piddling around without optimal results, then the antibiotic would be the second choice.
Right.
Deborah?
Yes.
I have been to Dr. Shealy's clinic. I was really, really, really sick. And I have had a bunch of these Myers cocktails. And I have to tell you, if you go to YouTube and you type in USA Prepares, Vincent Finelli, Dr. Shealy, Myers cocktail, you'll hear my reaction to the Myers cocktail. But in summary, I can tell you it's like the fountain of youth. I've experienced it, and I believe what it did for me was it jump-started my immune system to the point where I was able to begin healing, and I still am healing. And a lung disease is a really tough one, from my experience. I mean, I have firsthand experience what it's like to have scar tissue on my lungs. And it's not from smoking or doing anything stupid. I haven't done anything stupid. But yet the scar tissue is getting smaller and smaller. So, and I did follow Dr. Shealy's advice with the Myers cocktail. Actually, several of them. And I suggest you consider it from my perspective.
Well, this is for a family member, but I so appreciate you sharing, Vincent, and I'm aware of some of your history because I listen all the time. Myers cocktail is administered intravenously, correct?
Yes.
And we're too far away from Missouri, so I have no idea how to find somebody that...
Where are you?
In Kentucky, but too far away from...
Okay, look on the internet and see if there are any MDs or DOs who list themselves as holistic physicians.
Okay.
The only people who would do this are truly holistic physicians.
All right. Thank you so much. It's wonderful to hear you, Dr. Shealy.
Well, thank you. Blessings.
Deborah, before you go, I just want to ask Dr. Shealy a question on your behalf. Dr. Shealy, is there any downside risk whatsoever for the Myers cocktail?
Well, if you give it too fast, it does sort of give you the shakes or something, but in general, we've done probably 1,000 of them over the years, and it's very remarkably safe.
Just one quick other question. What would be, I've heard that TESOL can be extremely helpful, but being as we don't know how long we're dealing with in terms of what the time has been to know how advanced it is or what stage it's in, would that be worth a try in addition to what you said already?
Now, I missed what you're asking. Perfect.
TESOL, TEACEL, supposed to be quite remarkable for helping with Lyme?
Well, I've heard of it, but I have to say I don't know enough to answer the question. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I'll get off of here so David
Deborah,
can have his spot.
The most important thing that I'd like you to know, if you do decide to go for the Myers cocktail for the person you're discussing this about, I think slower is better. So
yes,
I've had
the die-off would be huge.
For 2 hours, a very slow drip versus a faster drip. I prefer the slower
3
drip.
to 4 hours.
And yeah, it would be great. And the person will be urinating every 10 minutes. And that's normal. But I mean, it'll be early and often. But the feeling that you get is quite
almost
impressive.
like reborn.
So I suggest you. Well, after it was over, I.
Okay, thank you.
After I received my first one, I called up our son, and I said, "I'm 20 years younger. I'm coming home and from Springfield, and there's a lot of things I want to do. So get ready." And you know, that was my reaction from hardly being able to move to I got a lot of stuff I want to do. Get ready because I'm 20 years younger. That was my reaction.
Thank you for sharing that. Love you both.
I'm not kidding.
Blessings.
Love you too. Deborah, thank you so much for being with us. That was Deborah. Let's try David. David, are you there?
Am I here this time?
Hey, David.
Hello?
You are!
That's amazing. My phone's been going down all weekend. So.
Yeah.
Now, I was originally going to make some comments about these kids when the video games situation started, but I can comment on this Fukushima. I recently seen a documentary about that. So some journalists went over there, and I don't think Japan's really going to care what they do because they're encouraging people that live there to go back to their homes. They're digging up their own soil by hand and dumping it. But where are they dumping it, nobody wants to say. They built a school right there in the middle of that place, and they're busing the kids in. And you see the trees. The trees are, which is sad, but these trees are growing, disoriented. You could tell. It's just sad to see the way the trees are growing so rapidly and the way they're growing. It's growing quicker. They compared it to Chernobyl, and the trees are responding and growing this way faster than in Chernobyl. And they're still trying to encourage the people to go back home.
Either they're desperate
when you look at the birth defects. Yeah. David, do you want to hold and briefly mention the video games? Because George is on hold. And so if you can say it in about a minute, that'd be great.
Okay.
All right. We'll be back with David in Illinois. He's a USA Prepares instructor. And so is George. And George is on hold as well. Dr. Shealy is an instructor, and there's 4 of us. Me too. We'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. NormShealy.com. David in Illinois is with us. George is on hold. David, very quickly, video games.
Yeah, back when I was in college in psychology, the video game situation started to come out, and my professor always wanted us to check. They wanted to know if there was a correlation between violence and video games. Now, back then, my opinion was no, because they were shooting at monsters and cartoon images. Now we graduated today where they're going and these video games are realistic. They're shooting up hospitals. They're shooting up airports. They're driving around running over women with strollers, and they get points. And then the government monitors that. If they do good enough, they want to say, hey, you got a job. You don't have a problem doing this. Will you do it for us? And I changed my opinion from back then to now where I say, yes, I believe there's a correlation between.
Dr. Shealy?
So, well, I think there's a correlation with so many things. You know, we've got, don't forget, in addition to nuclear energy, we've got fluoride and all kinds of other toxins like glyphosate. I mean, everything affects everything. And sooner or later, one or the other is going to overload the system beyond what it is already. Now, my biggest concern actually is if we don't get rid of fluoride, within 20 years there won't be any new babies. That bothers me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Very well said. David, I've got to run. Thank you very much. Yep. I appreciate you calling in 3 times to make it work today. And
all right, bye.
Please call in early and often. Thank you, David.
Bye.
Georgia, New Hampshire, welcome. You're on with Dr. Noam Shealy.
Hi, Dr. Shealy. Hi, Vincent.
Morning.
I just like to weigh in the sense that how this culture got to the place we're in. I think from my studies in Japan, I think they were under the hold of a satanic grip, almost virtually a devil-worshipping cult. And they kept that population down and degraded. Now, like David said earlier, in other words, the games that showed these sick, demented clowns, doing things that were completely against the norm and the code of any kind of moral behavior on video games, exposing children. So in other words, what they wouldn't allow in reality, in terms of digital games, they'd allow things in that would never be permitted. And what I'm saying is that, in other words, what do they say? The mold of the man is in the mind of a child. I guess what I'm trying to say is that Nintendo, I think the Japanese have been taking revenge on us, or at least I'm not saying the rank and file Japanese, the ordinary Japanese man or woman. I'm sure there are many, many decent people among them. But that leadership went underground in 1945, and they said they took that code of Bushido and they twisted it, and they trained the young generation that were into in other words, they twisted that code because the original Bushido code said that you didn't mistreat an enemy. If you overcame him, you treat them honorably and with respect. And we saw what they did in the prisoner of war camps, and to civilians, they were virtually monsters. But again, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you watch the original movie, The Time Machine, with Rod Taylor in 1960, it shows the progression of humanity until, with his time machine, he was able to cross the boundaries of time and space. And he reached a point where he found a childlike community that didn't even have the wherewithal that if one of their own were drowning, they'd just sit around, and at most it would just be like something to observe casually while they sat back and did nothing. Dr. Shealy, you've been the victim of that. Vincent, you've been the victim of that. In other words, you're trying to bring a light to mankind, whether it's showing practices of good nutrition and health, or whether it's things that can improve the life of a person and their state. And yet, what did they do invariably? They fall for the false one. And what does it say in the end? It says Christ came in another's name, and they rejected him. They received him not. He says, but in the end, he goes, a man's going to come that's going to come in his own name, and him you're going to accept. And I'm saying is that we see the world being corrupted. It's a corrupted globe. And I'm sorry, I won't go on and on, but I'm just saying is that it's a progression that I see In 1984, a lot of the children were going to find themselves in fatherless homes, and the mother had to go out to work. So the mother was stuck being the provider, going out into the world, and at the same time, the home life was neglected. Whether it was by choice, whether it was by circumstances, it created a disastrous, and you can see that the harvest is coming in.
George, we're out of time. Dr. Shealy, any quick comments?
Well, all I can say is pray that some kind of sanity occurs on Earth.
George, Dr. Shealy, thank you so much for being with us. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next? It's up to you.